2, 3.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only James Williams Dark Waters, and I'm back. And this is a part of the 100,000 subscriber episode. I want to say this, and I'm going to say this publicly. So, I told you guys that I had dedicated this channel, and I have, not had, as in the past tense, dedicated this channel to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And so, one of the things that as a part of this agreement is that, if you want to be the greatest of all, you need to be servant of all. So I invited a whole bunch of people to share in this 100,000 subscriber moment. A lot. The people that you hear on right now are the people that accepted and followed through. Some people accepted and never followed through. Things happen, but I want you guys to know that one of the people I already knew my homie was going to follow through and hop on here with me is Jeff Nadolny. That's my boy. He's on with us right now. We're going to just chop it up, talking about Dogman, talking about the paranormal, talking about whatever comes to mind. So frankly, I don't know where this conversation going to go. But I know one thing, the conversation's going to be good. Jeff, what's up, baby? How you feeling today?
What's up, brother? How are you? I'm very well. Thank you for having me on. Congratulations, 100,000 subs. I remember when I started my channel, you were at like 30 something 2,000, I think 32,000.
Yeah, it was low. 30.
I looked up to you. Yeah,
it was like 32, maybe 40. Man, it's been a great journey. It's one of those things, Jeff. And you experienced this, right? So when you're, especially in the cryptid community, there's these levels that you go through, and so you go through that 0 to 10,000 subscriber level. That's where all the drama and the foolishness is, right? You get the 10, 20,000. Yep. Well, let's say 10 to 30,000. Now you start becoming a threat to people, or they perceive you as a threat. So then there's these kind of attacks that come, and these things where people try to just make you look crazy and attack your character and all the rest of this. Then when you get to a certain point, all that stuff kind of lays off and you're actually able to grow. But you got to get through those first two phases, especially in the Dogman community. You'll notice that a lot of people, because you've been around long enough now, you notice a lot of people come in, they never get past that 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 mark, because that's where all the foolishness is. You know what I'm saying? And it's just been crazy.
That's where
it's
the
been a wild
haters are,
adventure.
and yeah,
It's been a
that's
wild.
where the haters are.
Yeah, and I understand it, because it's like in that block of subscribership, it's where people are trying to figure out their lane and what they're going to do, and so they're experimenting with trying to figure out what they're going to do, while looking at other people achieve success and kind of being like, well, if they could do it, I could do it. But then you got to find your lane and figure out what you're going to do. You know what I'm saying? And then do that and leave everybody the hell alone.
Exactly.
And that's
yeah,
how I
exactly.
see it.
That's why, I mean, with you, when I was smaller, I'm still small, but I said, I can't compare or compete. I don't want to compare or compete with Dark Waters. I'm like, the guy can just really just tell a story. He's a phenomenal storyteller. I'm like, I have to figure out my niche in this community, what I'm good at. And you are an amazing storyteller. You have a vast amount of knowledge, and that you retain from talking to people. Your ideas are amazing. Like dogmancams.com was an amazing idea. It's too bad it didn't go the way you wanted it to, because I really think it would have been something truly amazing. And I remember talking to you about you saying you need to find your niche, and you said, I think it was right when I had talked about the Brenda Hamilton case, and I really started to look into it, and you're like, just do this, dude. Follow that. You're great at it. And I did, and you got to find your niche, and you got to ignore the haters because they just want to bring you down. I don't know if it's jealousy or if it could be the outside influences. You know what I mean? To just, there's paid trolls out there. So,
Yeah, that's another thing that people don't really understand, bro. Like, there's legit paid trolls, and I remember, Jeff, when I first started encountering them, it was in that 18 to 30,000 range. That's when all the stuff was going on with Vic, and they used, and I still am not sure who this is. I kind of got an idea, but I'm not gonna say it. They used the conflict between me and Vic as cover for some of the things that were going on, and
right.
but when you really started digging deep into what was the data of it, it was like, okay, there was a certain amount of his audience that was spazzing. Um, Whether it was justified or not, that's it doesn't matter. And but then there was this carve out section that it was a coordinated word attack, and it was very specific words that was being used. And so when I started going back over Facebook and Twitter and looking at his audience, I said, okay, these people aren't using these talking points. But over here come these talking points that are just very, very consistent, very pointed, and it was trying to create a narrative. So I said, okay, we got to figure out a way to slice these two, like cut the pie on this and start dealing with it. And so once I started to cut the pie and focus on that, it went away until I started doing shorts. Then when I started doing shorts, I saw it, and it was even more prevalent. And it's the same comments over and over across a series of shorts. When you start looking at the accounts, they're out of like India, you just know it's some kind of bot attack. But I don't even understand why. It's almost like
And newer accounts too.
newer accounts. You
Newer,
know what I'm
like
saying?
just 2 months old. Yeah, 2 months old. You look at it and you're like, November of 2022. What the hell is this?
Hmm. And
So
you can't
I
even
think that
attribute it to.
I
Go
think
ahead. I'm
it's
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I just think it's outside interference that there's, and I hate saying it, but just I mean, people don't want us to talk about certain things, so they try to discredit us or try to make us look like we're something that we're not. I remember when I first started this, and I had heard of you, I'd listened to you, and I was like, wow, he's really good. But I had heard that you were just this miserable, mean person. It was the narrative that was going on around 30,000 for you. And so I was, hesitant to even reach out to you. And then I did shortly thereafter when you were like 40,000. And I was like, the narrative isn't even right about him. I'm like, he's just the one of the nicest person. I was sick and you sent me chaga tea. I think from day one of me and you talking, we had really hit it off and became friends. Um, and I think that was the narrative, was to paint you as something that you were not, and that was this mean, attackful, vengeful person. Which I don't see that. I If someone steps on your toe, of course you're gonna push back, but as if no one steps on your toe, you're
Just going
Jane.
about my
You're
business.
Yeah, you're just a
Yeah.
normal dude. You don't give a crap. You smoke your cigars and tell your stories.
Nah, that's bro. That's what it is, man. And I've always been that way my whole life. I've been the guy that always went out, just did what he did, hung out with the people, hung out, cool as they can come. And then when you do something, it's always, in my case, it's always been, um, nobody sees the person slapping you, but they always see you punching them back.
Hmm.
And that's been my whole life. Somebody slapped me and be like, oh, okay, this dude slapped me. Then when I knock him out, it's like, whoa, why did you do that? Wait, you didn't just see that man slap me just now? Like, what do you mean?
Right.
But and that's just par for the course. I tell you, you mentioned Dogman cams, and that was something that the greatest lesson I learned from that was that people perceive the Dogman community and the cryptid community as a community.
Yep.
But when you get down to the bottom of it, it's a group of people who have like it's cliques with interest. Um, that project was started to help other researchers go out and do field research. You know what I'm saying? That was the whole purpose of the project. It was to fund field
Right.
research. Um, and it was to me, it seemed like the minute that project got started, it people started angling, saying, "Hey, these guys are all about the money." And I think it's
Hmm.
very interesting that there has been this disconnect between the fact that it takes money to actually accomplish good research. So if you're a field researcher, how do you go out in the field and get the equipment you need if you don't have any money? In a typical field researcher, like outdoors in the woods field researcher, when you look at that genre of people, there are very few of them who have the what I would call the gift of gab that they can use to actually monetize their research. So, like you take Kurt Stokes, right? Kurt Stokes has some of the most phenomenal evidence that anybody's ever
Yeah.
seen. But
Yeah.
if you put Kirk Stokes in the interview format, Kirk's doesn't have that flow, that pizzazz to get the word out there, right? But if you gave Kirk
Right.
Stokes $1 million, Kirk Stokes would go out and get you all kinds of evidence, right? Um,
Exactly. He'd come back with some crazy, I
Crazy.
think with Kurt, though, with him, I think that he could actually come on your show or my show if he hadn't been trampled on so hard in the very beginning. Like those, you know, groups or whatever, because his theories and his words didn't agree with other people, so he's really kind of closed in,
Yeah, he
and
is closed off.
he just doesn't even care. I mean, I know he cares about the community, because I know he watches my show and probably watches your show, but if you get kicked so many times, why would you care? You know what I mean? He's got amazing videos, amazing photos, but why share them when people that were supposed to be experts, which the word is so stupid in this cryptozoology. There's no experts, but bigger people, big groups that go out and search, um, you're not gonna want to put the ambition forth, and you're not gonna want to share your stuff. It's sad, I came into the community like right in the middle of it. You were already in it. You were in the mix when there was Facebook uh, groups and whatever communities, and if you didn't agree with what they thought and this and that, you were going to get called out. And a lot of people got pushed aside, and a lot of good researchers got pushed aside because um, clicks. It was all clicks back then, and now it's really not so much. It still is, in different places. Reddit is a big one. The Dogman community post on Reddit. I see hate comments about you and I and other channels. I mean, they even hate on Vic there now, and so it's terrible. I mean, people got to really realize that the research needs to be done, and until we have a, a body in front of a place where the government won't take it, and we can get our answers, it's all going to be theories from then on. But yeah, Dogman Camps though was an amazing idea. Um, just I don't think that many people know how amazing your idea was, and it was not about money. Um, I
Oh no,
remember
that
you
that
approaching me.
took a L, bro. That
Yeah,
took
I
a
remember.
massive.
Yeah, when you approached me, you said, "This is my idea," and he said, I want to put 5 cameras, located. We'll pay the people who own the property. They're going to be solar powered, so they're going to run at night. And the money that we get in, we're going to put into kind of a fund, and eventually have enough money put together to hire 6 people who are experts and send them out into the woods and pay them. So when they're out in the woods for a week, their bills are paid. They're not worried about their bills. They already know their bills are paid, and their only thing that they're concentrating on is getting research. And I was like, that's an amazing idea. And on top of that, it's you're paying somebody for a job. It's not just 6 guys that are drinking buddies going out in the woods and sitting by a fire and looking at a hole in the ground saying, I think this could be a Dogman hole. You know, it was an amazing idea, and it really fell short, unfortunately.
Yeah, it fell short, and that's okay. But I learned, like I said, the greatest lesson I learned is that it was a project that everyone should have gotten behind in a way, shape, or form. It was a project that people could have gotten access to, but what I learned is that because there's this cliquish nature, the overall concept and idea of a community working together to get to a common goal, that's impossible.
Mhm.
It's not gonna work as a community. Like, oh, we all gonna get together and come to a common goal. That's never gonna happen. And so what has to happen, and what I do now is behind the scenes. Now I'm in a process of funding researchers directly. Okay, bro, you out in the field. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna fund you. Don't tell nobody I funded you. Just go out and get your evidence, and then bring your evidence to the people. And don't tell nobody nothing. You know what I'm saying? And that way, those people, those individual researchers, now begin to grow. Now they begin to get bigger names, and they start getting research out there. But as a whole, nah, bro, it will not work because there's too many. It's just too many people who have interests that are contradictory to what you're trying to do, and it's really a lot of it's based on insecurity and different
Ego.
things that just in ego. You know what I'm saying? And it
Yeah,
is what it is, bro. You know.
exactly.
Um, but
Yep.
it
I
did
remember when I
exactly what
had
it's
you
supposed to
on.
do.
Yeah, when I had you on once, you had said that you were going to fund a guy going into, I think, Central America or South America about
Hmm.
monster ball pythons or boas or anacondas or something. Did that ever come? Did anything ever come about that?
Yep, he got funded. He went and he did it, and now he's off putting together his final product and
Hmm.
making it happen. And
That's awesome.
that's the only way I can see. Um, that's the only way I see it working, and it's unfortunate because um, part of it's human nature, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Man,
Hmm.
I want to run something by you. So,
Yeah.
I got a story that came to me, crazy as hell, about from one of the researchers that went deep, 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 deep in days into the woods. We're talking about 7 days into the woods, um, and he got back up in there. At it's nighttime, and he sees this fire. Man, he goes and sneaks up on this fire, and it's a huge, huge bonfire. I mean, huge. It's just a huge bonfire. People with robes on surrounding the fire. 13 people with robes on. And he said they did a sacrifice. I'm not gonna say what they sacrificed, but he said, man, they did a sacrifice. Um, and the fire turned green, and out popped a dog man. Then they did another sacrifice, and out popped a Bigfoot. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
No. Maybe. I mean, I've heard of portals, but not the sacrifice thing. The one thing that I mean, is it possible? Yeah, it could be possible because I think you and I talked about it with um, in the Catskills, and where different areas have some sort of magnetic draw to it,
Mm-hmm.
like Skinwalker Ranch or the Catskills, New York, Hudson River Valley. There's usually satanic cults, um, dogman activity, Bigfoot activity. UFOs, paranormal, meaning like phantom ghosts and stuff like that. And I think when there's a satanic cult involved, that possibly there are summoning something. I don't know if it's a dogman. It could be more or less a demon. That's how I feel. Because I think that there's a physical kind of dogman, and then kind of the uh, demonic
Demonic
dogman,
type.
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Because there was a guy that I had talked to, and he was in a cabin, which was on stilts or whatever, and it was like 13 feet off the ground, the back window. And he had seen this dogman figure running through the woods during the daytime, and at night he would see the eyes peering through the wood or peering through the window at him at 13 feet, knowing full well this thing was not
13 feet tall.
13 feet tall. So it must have levitated because there's nothing it's going to stand on. And then it had done something to where it just wasn't even possible for a physical creature to do. So, I mean, with the freaking cults and stuff like that, anything's possible. I'd more or less say demon, though, you know. And I think that these things, these demonic creatures, can look like anything they are summoned to look like. I mean, I don't know, because I'm not a practitioner of anything like that. But I mean, it would make sense to me. What LeVay?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been looking for this book and trying to track it down. Because I've got a couple pages of it, but he wrote that book, How to Become a Werewolf, and he's the founder of the Satanic Church. Why would you write a book like that? And
Right. Why would you
like,
write a book on how to become a werewolf?
yeah, and I think to be honest, um, it's more or less a book on how to summon demonic creatures. Um, but yeah, there's a guy that he collects, and he's got some sort of collection up in Canada, and he does like really weird serial killer and, you know, Charles Manson, Anton LaVey stuff, and Aleister Crowley, and he collects like their old weird crap. Somehow he gets his hand on it, and I reached out to him to see if he could locate the book. And just because I want to see what's, you know, I've got like 2 or 3 pages of it, actually 2 pages of it, so it's like 4 pages front and back, but there's really nothing that interesting in it. And I guess it was like a 30-page book, but why would the church, the founder of the Church of Satan, write a book about how to become a werewolf? You know, the only, you know, thing I can think of is where it says how to become was kind of a cover, how to summon a werewolf, how to, you know what I mean?
No, I'm with you. My advice to you would leave that shit alone. Leave that book where it is. You don't even want that kind of stuff in your house, bro. I
Right.
remember, so I was really, really cool. And I don't know what happened to poor Heather Wade, but she just dropped off the map. But I remember one night we're talking,
Coast
and
to
she
coast.
said, yeah, the one she was coast to coast. She had Midnight in the Desert, is what she had.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And so one night we're talking, and she says, I have a gift for you. And I said, okay, what kind of gift you got? She says, well, Anton LaVey gave me this chalice, and you're my good friend, and I want to give it to you. I said, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. I don't want that. And she was like, but I mean, it's really valuable. I said, I don't want that crap in my house. And she was
Right.
like, but you know, I said, you talking about Anton LaVey, the Church of Satan? She's like, yeah, you know, he gave it to me. I said, no, 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 hell no. I don't want that. And so she's just sitting there laughing. And I said, you think I'm joking? I don't want that. Yo, me and you cool, but ain't nothing you gonna give me that's a gift. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
Right.
accepting no gift from no damn Antoine LaVey. I don't roll like that. And later on, as she and I talked more and more, and we both opened up more, she told me something very significant. She said, James, you know, you're a really smart guy. She says, or you really do have the spirit of God. She was like, because you don't come into agreement with me on anything. She's like, the only thing we ever agree on is certain people that we don't like. She's like, but outside of that, she's like, you never come into agreement with me on anything. And I said, well, I mean, it's not that
Right.
I don't agree. It's just that we see things differently. And she was like, do you understand, how important agreement is? She's like, that's why when you meet people, and she started talking about real deal, like hoodwink, sorcery, magic stuff that's done to people. And she was like, you could meet a stranger on the street that is a high practicing magician or wizard or witch, and their whole goal and whole intention is to get you to come in agreement with something, so a spirit that they associate with can follow you home, and then you be forced to work with that spirit. And she's
Right.
when she started breaking it down, I was like, that's crazy. And she was like, that's why you got to be careful who you come into agreement with. And bro, it was amazing because after she gave me that little bitty tidbit of information, I started noticing like there were people around me that would say stuff like, "Would you agree?" "Would you agree?" And it was only people in this paranormal field. They'll be like,
Hmm.
"Well, I think this is this. Would you agree?" And I'd be like, "No, I don't agree." Well, then they'll loop me, come back again. "Well, I think we ought to do this. Would you agree?" "No, I don't agree." And then I finally got to the point to where with certain people, I'll just be like, "No." They'd be like, "Well, I want to do this." "No." "I want to do that." "No." Because I realized, wait, man, you out here trying to bring me in agreement with you. And I didn't know that just a natural agreement in certain instances meant a spiritual agreement. But she broke a lot of that stuff down. And then later on, as I started researching and learning more, I was like, yo, she was 100% right.
Right.
And that's the craziest thing. I find that in this field, and you can just give me your opinion on it. Um, I don't know what it is about the cryptid field, but it seems like there's a whole there's like these factions in the field. So there's practitioners who practice magic,
Hmm.
things of that nature. Then there's New Age people. Then there's Christians. The only faction that's not in this that I really see is people who are Muslims. I don't really see anybody who's really that practices Islam in this field. But it's like factions in this field on a spiritual realm that you'll see that have conversations. You can see it in the comment section. You can see it in the way things play out. Have you experienced that? Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah. I have. Especially like with the um the new age
Hmm.
and like the clairvoyant um and the Catholic or Christian community.
Hmm.
They're very die hard about their view on things. Um, that they're and it's weird because they're not willing to accept something else other than and it's sad because they offer something valuable themselves, but they're not willing to realize that there could be something else besides what they're sharing, and I did have a Muslim guy when you once, only once, reach out to me. He lived in, I want to say, Afghanistan. Yeah, I've got his he sent me his experience, and I don't know if they were jinn or if they were two dogmen, but he thought they were two juvenile like dogmen. His parents, they had to they live in America, but they would go back to the mother country wherever they uh, lived. They'd have to land in a different country and then drive to the country that they're from. And they owned a home with some property. And one day they were driving up into their land, and there was these two small like dogmen, and the father ended up like pulling up as close as he could to the house, like saying some kind of Muslim prayer, and they all got in their house. Um, and there had been little sightings of them throughout, but he didn't realize, he didn't know what they were. Either they were jinn or dogmen, but he kept saying, "I think they were juvenile dogmen," because they were clearly physical. You know what I mean?
No,
But
I
then I
know
was like,
exactly
well,
what
if
you
they
mean.
were spiritual, they could be physical too.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's one of the things that I kind of feel like people miss that point. It When you start talking about a physical, I mean, a spiritual entity, they can, I mean, a spiritual entity, they can manifest and become physical.
Right.
And most people don't get that. Bro, I had a guy tell me a story about a jinn scared the hell out of me. And I don't think I've ever told this story. I'm trying to think. I
Tell
may
that
have.
now.
I may have. I don't know if I want to tell it, bro, because when he told me the story, the atmosphere. But this was years ago. When he told me the story, the atmosphere in the room started changing. It
Really?
was insane. I'll give a summation of it. It
All
was
right.
him. It was his in their house. It was him, his sister, his mom. His sister and his mom left and went to another town, like 100 miles away. And so he's outside watering the plants, and he looks into the like this, like a glass room where they had their indoor like garden, and he sees his mom and his sister in the indoor garden. He's like, okay, well, I thought they were gone. So now he's freaking out because he's like, y'all came back and y'all don't tell me nothing. Goes inside the house, goes around, comes back into that glass room, and then there's this 14-foot tall man with glowing blue eyes on the other side of the glass on the outside looking at him, and freaked him out a gazillion percent. Scared the hell out of him, and
Mhm.
to the point to where he left and went to a friend's house, and he would not go back into that house until his mom and his sister came back. And when you start talking about jinn, that's the Muslim form of a demon, and he
Yeah.
definitely attested to it. No, that was a demon. It was terrifying, bro. But what was
That is
most terrifying
terrifying.
about it was, as he told me the story, I knew it was true because the atmosphere changed in the room,
Right.
and it's kind of like the atmospheres never really change talking about Dogman, unless I'm
No.
talking to a person who has like some kind of spiritual attachment to him. But bro, you get
Right.
to talking about demons, you get to talking about jinn, you get to talking about um, shadow people. It doesn't do it so much now because I got such a strong hedge of prayer around me. But back then, bro, it would literally feel like something walked into the room with you. Freaked me
Do
the
you
hell out.
think that when you said they had like the attachment, like when you were talking about Dogman, that that point, that Dogman probably would be classified as a spiritual kind. You know what I mean? Then that's why it kind of messed your whole vibe up.
Well, it's in my opinion, it's a couple of things, right? So it's eyewitness. It's dependent on the eyewitness. So before I give you an example.
Hmm.
This is not Dogman, but this is Bigfoot. Squatch
Okay.
watchers, right? Cool group of guys. They go out into the woods. They search for Sasquatch. They have documented evidence of, and they've seen it with their own eyes, that there's other spiritual entities out in the woods with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
They've seen them. They've documented them. They've seen the faces in the fog. They've seen faces inside of orbs, right? And so, what ends up happening to a lot of people who go to the woods as researchers, especially, and this is really happens to Christian researchers who go out into the woods, because they're going out into an environment that technically, biblically, they shouldn't be going into
Hmm.
for a specific purpose that's like illegal for them to do. Um, they end up encountering things that follow them home. So they'll come home, and someone in the household, their behaviors will change. Like a kid will be,
Mm.
their son or daughter be way more agitated than they were before they went out into the woods. Or they'll have these conflicts with husband and wife where all of a sudden the relationship takes a downturn and now they're arguing and they're fighting all the time. And it's because when you go out into those environments and you don't have the proper protection with you, number one, and number two, when you go out as an illegal occupant on another spiritual entity's dominion and domain, now they have rights to do certain things to you, like follow you
Right.
home. That's why you hear this hitchhiker thing. um
Yeah.
and it doesn't just happen to Christians, it happens to pretty much everybody. But
Everybody. Yeah. Because
the truth.
paranormal investigators are like, before they leave uh, a home or whatever. Like when I went to the Conjuring house, I specifically said, thank you for showing yourself to us, but you are not welcome to attach yourself to me or my daughter. You are to stay here, And I said the Lord's Prayer, and that was it. But yeah, I think that these hitchhikers can, regardless uh, cryptid studies or whatever. I think that there's something powerful attached to, that's why when people are like, oh, the paranormal is different than cryptozoology, I really don't think so. And the first case I ever heard that really gave me a different opinion on, because prior to this one case, I thought they were all physical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because what I saw in '94 looked physical to me, like it didn't. And the whole spiritual concept was just, I guess, blanketed from my past and growing up and stuff like that. And Ronald Murphy Jr., the researcher, uh, when he went on this hunt for a dogman, and he kept going through these woods, and these orbs were trailing him. He could visibly see them, and he had gotten to a point in the experience where he felt like he was going to get attacked. Um, and I think his light didn't work, or his camera was off, or something. Something was messed up, and he
Mm-hmm.
saw these orbs across the trail, and he followed those orbs to get out of the woods wherever he was, and got out safely. So I think that this, whatever guided him out of the woods, these orbs can either be bad or good. Um, but that was the first case that I heard that really kind of showed me something. Like, you hear all the time orbs with Bigfoot, and I really never kind of attributed it to anything. I just like kind of whatever. But there's a serious connection, and I don't know. I don't think we ever know what it is, because I don't think our brains are meant to comprehend something like that. Like Skinwalker Ranch, and there's other places like Skinwalker Ranch on our planet that, if they were supposed to, like, cryptids are supposed to be separate from the paranormal, then why on this one piece of land are there UFO, cryptid, paranormal, ghosts, portals, and all this other crap happening? Real skinwalkers, which Navajo, with black magic, So I think they're all connected somehow. Um, in that point, I think that I don't know, the devil might be involved. I hate saying it, but I've started to really get this, feeling that there is. I never bought into the biblical sense of it, but as of late, and I'm looking at things that are happening now, I'm really starting to buy into the idea that I, there's a spiritual war going on, and I think people really need to get ready for it, because the, it might be too late someday. Why are we seeing giants nowadays?
Mm-hmm.
More and more. That kid, Andrew Dawson up in Canada.
The one who went missing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that was like brought to everyone's attention like 6 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason, it was quieted. People were talking about it 6 months ago, but then it really started to ramp up, and now it's like, right at the forefront. And I think that was quieted because the government really wanted to keep it quiet. I mean, the guy is dead. There's no arguing it. His obituary is online. His girlfriend made a statement about him uh, passing away from some cause, whatever. But I don't buy that, because I think maybe she was under duress. Like his last statement, he's like, all the videos that I made, guys, were fake, and he keeps looking over to the left, and then he makes that one where he's really afraid, and he's like, these are not fake. I probably won't see me again. And I really think that the 1%, or whoever, the government, whatever, I think the government and the 1% are separate, because there's obviously the 1% has their hands in everything. But we are in for something big, and I just think it's ramping up right now. And you know, I don't know. I think prayer is the only thing that will save us. I'm not saying go into the woods with just prayer, but make sure you have some protection with you. But
Well, I'll tell you what.
it's
You want to go to Myrtle Grove? What's the name of the plantation you want to go to? What's it called?
Myrtle's Plantation.
I'm gonna tell you now. When we go to Myrtle's Plantation, it might be the most uneventful encounter experience you ever had because I'm fasting and praying before I go, and I'm going in there with a bunch of angels. And when I walk through, you're gonna be like, "Bro, there's nothing happening. Like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Like, what the hell
But
is really going down out here in the streets?" Because
that could be proof itself too. You know what I mean? Because that place is one of the most haunted places in Louisiana, and we go in there, and you're amped up on a different voltage than what the house is. It's going to cancel it out.
I'm going on 1 trillion watts when I go up in there. You know the
Hey, let me
craziest?
ask.
Yeah,
All right, what were you going to say? I was going to ask you a question. I wanted to ask you a question, if
go
you
ahead,
don't
shoot.
mind. I know it's your interview show, but I want to ask you, and I want people to, I think people would like to hear this. So we all have our uh, one experience that we've heard, or that someone has told us, regardless if you've shared it or someone else shared it, when it pertains to Dogman, not anything else, but just Dogman. What would be the one experience that you've heard throughout your life that really has affected you and pushed you more in this community towards Dogman that
Um,
you just won't forget?
when this gentleman in Tennessee's daughter was pulled through the window by a dog man, and that's one I never created the story, never actually like produced it
Mm-hmm.
for people to listen to because it was so traumatic. But his daughter was playing near a window, and initially the dog started growling and barking at the window,
Mm-hmm.
but he comes into the room. He sees his daughter to the right of the window. The window's open. It's got the regular screen on it. And what got me about this story is people call and tell lies.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell when someone's telling the truth because the emotion that was in this man's voice was the emotion of a father who realized that something had taken his daughter right in front of him, and at that moment there was nothing he can do. And so anyway, dog is growling. He comes into the room. His daughter's to the right of the window. He sees this eye shine in the window. Tells his daughter, "Listen, come over here. Try not to scare her to get her to turn around and look." But he's staring. She turns around and looks, and it literally reaches through the screen and grabs the girl and yanks her out of the window. And Dad loses his mind. He's got to run and scramble and get his shotgun. Goes outside, and this is the craziest thing. I don't know why it did it. I don't know why I let her go. I don't know what he did. I feel like he did something that he wouldn't disclose. You know how there's a piece to a puzzle that's missing.
Yeah.
It was like he wasn't being 100. It was like he was being 90% truthful, and it was the
Mm-hmm.
10% that he left out that I couldn't produce the story the way I wanted to because that 10%, whatever that was, it was so significant and so traumatic to him that I couldn't portray that story
Mm-hmm.
to everybody the way I wanted to. But he had to do something for it to do this. But anyway, it's literally
Like when you say he had to do something, like
like
with the Palmyra Maine wolves, like he looked at their hole or something. You know what I mean? Like that was something.
I think he either shot a juvenile or shot an adult.
Okay.
I think this was revenge um,
Ah,
because it just didn't make sense. Like,
right.
and the fact that it targeted his daughter. You understand? Over 7 days, it kept coming to that bedroom window where his daughter was, and it was like it targeted her. And I kept on asking him. I'm looping him. I'm
Mm.
saying, "Well, listen. Um, you spend a lot of time out in the woods. Have you seen a dog man pup? Have you ever seen a smaller one? Have you ever taken shots at these things?" and he alluded to taking a pot shot at one of them, right? But even the way he said it was kind of like, I'm telling you this, but I'm not telling you all of it. But anyway, snatches the daughter out the window. He runs, gets his shotgun. Him and the dog go out the house. His dog was a gangster, OG dog. Dog takes out, boom, takes off after the daughter, and he finds the dog and the daughter with scratches on her arms and on her from her shoulder going down to her wrist, and then scratches on her rib cage on the opposite side. He finds the dog and the daughter right next to a tree. The daughter laying there crying, the dog licking on the daughter, and he proceeds to move forward a little bit to try and clear the area to make sure nothing's there. And then it just dawns on him he needs to get his daughter home. He was just, in his words, he was like, "Man, I was so angry, I wanted to go after her, but I had to get my daughter." And
Right.
that was the one story that I'll never forget because of all the raw emotions. Because originally it was kind of like, "Hey, I want to tell you about when Dogman took my daughter." I'm like, "Man, it's about to be a lie. This is about to be some
Mm-hmm.
foolishness." You get a text message like that, you're like, "Man, it's about to be some, you know, do want to interview," but he ain't want no interview. He just wanted to talk. And he go
Right.
through this series of questions about what they are, why they do certain things. I'm like, "Yo, let's get to the story." And I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa!" Now
Wow.
he go to crazy stuff. I'm begging to talk to the daughter. I'm like, "Look, let me verify by talking to your daughter. Let me verify by talking to your daughter." Finally, I talked to her for 12 seconds. I said, "Sweetheart, can I ask you a question?" She said, "Yes, Mr. Williams." I said, "Have you ever been taken by anything?" And she just starts crying. I said, "Okay, well that verifies that." I'm like, there's no, it's like, "Have you ever been taken by anything?" And it's, and then tears. And I said, "You know what? It's
Right.
okay. Calm down. It's gonna be all right. It's not coming back." And now I'm talking to him like, "Well, this is a true story." That's the one story, bro, that
That just
it got
you'll
me.
never forget.
I'll never forget
Yeah.
it because it goes to show it was a couple of elements, and it's still puzzling to me why I would do it. I've known them. I've
Mhm.
known them to take pit bulls, take dogs, take cats, take
Mm.
animals,
Yeah.
but to deliberately target a child, I still haven't been able to wrap my mind around why, other than he targeted one of their kids.
I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like he alluded, like you said, he alluded to taking a pop shot. So,
Yeah,
I mean, why else would it target her 7 days? You know?
and bro, that is so
Wow.
far outside the behavioral norm. Like
Hmm.
the behavioral patterns for these things. There's norms of behavior. That's so
Yeah.
far outside the behavioral norm. It's like, yo, why did it do that? Um,
Yeah.
and
That's an
that's the
amazing
one
story.
story,
Wow.
bro. That's the one story. And the craziest thing
And
is, I don't, Jeff. I don't even share. I'm kind of over the Dogman subject, and so at
mhm.
some point in time, I'm just gonna do another dump, and I'm just gonna dump all kinds of stuff. But I'm so kind of over the subject because once you get down to the bottom of it,
Mhm.
there's a spiritual aspect to it. There's an interdimensional aspect to it. There's definitely a demonic aspect to it. And
Yeah.
there's clearly some kind of genetically modified being out there. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, how much more can we dig in? How can I, not we, how much more can I dig into this without, hitting the same reoccurring theme over
Making
and
yourself
over again?
crazy.
No, 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 I'm gonna go crazy. It's
Right.
just you're digging into something, and it's like you hit the bottom of it, and the well done sprung up, and it's full of water. And so now the more I feel like the more you dig, the water's just gonna get muddy. Um,
Hmm.
and so I'm looking for another story that's a habituation story where it's been on a property for a long time. I got one that I'm in the middle of finishing off, but those are the ones where you get the most information. The
Yep.
kind of onesie twosie. I was in a car. I saw it on the side of the road. Whatever, bro. I was out hunting. I
Yeah.
was in my blind. I saw it. Those stories are good for validation, but you really got to get the stories, and it's hard to get those
You're
people
not
to open up.
learning anything at that point.
Right. You
Yeah.
got to
You're not
get the
learning
stories
anything.
where
Like,
people have them on the property for an
mhm,
extended period
mhm.
of
For
time.
generations, years. Luke, the gentleman that I've had on my channel, Taylor, Mississippi.
Hmm.
Um, it's crazy too that I had known you for a year. Um, we had talked maybe 2 or 3 times, and I don't listen to other channels. I don't watch other channels because I have I don't. My whole thing is I don't want to hear something on someone else's channel and be like, wow, I I've heard something like that, or want to share that story. You know what I mean? I don't want to get jaded. Um, but so I had no idea about your experience in Taylor, Mississippi, until after I had talked to this guy named Luke, and he had said, my dad and my grandfather had experiences. And then after I did the interview with him, someone had said, James had something happen in Taylor, Mississippi. And I was like, really? And that like really kind of validated this whole thing that Taylor, Mississippi is, a hot spot. And then come to find out, it wasn't just his dad and granddad, it was his great granddad,
Mm-hmm.
his granddad, his dad, him, and then his kids. And then he didn't realize it because he just said, my granddad, my dad, and me had these experiences. But I was like, bro, your great grandfather saved your granddad. That's an experience. Your kids saw you, uh, scratched and had to deal with living on this property for X amount of years. That's their experience. So that's 5 generations of dogman exposure to this family. And those, you really start to learn stuff like patterns of these creatures, what they do, why, he thinks that on his property, and it validates your migration, which, me and you have, I agree that they move. I think they travel with food, and we're friends, so we can disagree. We agree to disagree sometimes on that, the migration thing, but it does validate your migration theory because he only sees these creatures at certain times of the year, which,
Mm-hmm.
if they were just nomadic, they wouldn't keep coming back unless they were migrating. So, that right there is something learned from this G, multiple family members, and my brain just shut off. Um,
That
keep
multi-generational.
seeing these creatures, generations. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. So that's learned stuff right there, which is
That's where the knowledge is,
truly
bro.
awesome.
Um,
Hmm.
that's what the knowledge is. It's in the multi-generational uh, encounters. It's one of those things to where, okay,
Yeah,
because it has to be multiple experiences where you pull out, where they're able to pull out information based on those encounters, and that's what I'm searching for. As I go through emails, as I go through phone calls, um, I just I want a bit more. I want a bit more. I want a bit more that I can share. I want a bit more that I can dive deeper into. That way, I can share more with the audience. And if we can't do
yep,
that, bro,
yep.
it's like you back to the onesie twosies. Oh, I saw it on the side of the road. Oh, I saw it walking down the street. Oh, I saw this. Oh, I saw that. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Which are still amazing because it proves existence. But like you said, the to really gain information to um, work on your theories, and eventually possibly 100% scientific proof. You need those cases where they're multi-generational and not just quick in and out. But the in and out ones really mess people up too. So we can't
no,
just,
I'm not trying to poo
no,
poo
no,
those
I
away.
know what you're
I'm
saying.
just
No, I
saying.
wasn't saying that. You never would do that thing.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
somebody be like, "Oh, he's talking bad." No, I'm not trying to poo-poo any of these
no.
encounters away. It's just that you can classify encounters into different things. It's it's really a sighting, and then
Mhm.
there's an encounter, and then I consider
Mhm.
them like level three encounters in my mind, which is okay. I've seen it one or more, 1 to 3 times on my property, and then anything above that, where you've seen it 3 or more times in the same location, is they typically end up being multi-generational encounters where
Right.
or it's a person like Connor who's on the migration path where
Mhm.
he literally sees them migrating, pushing food through his yard is full of deers at certain times of the year.
Yep.
um and they're around and then they're gone. You know what I'm saying? But that's
Mhm.
based on that timing of them moving through. And so it's just,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying. It's, I want to, from a production standpoint of producing a story that's good, I want to produce more multi generational stories. The problem is they're few and far in between. You know what I'm saying? Once you start
Mhm.
vetting and
Yeah.
start hammering them out, they it's not like they just around the corner. You know what I'm saying? It's not like everybody has one,
Yeah.
and therein lies the problem.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thing. Um, you'd said the word, and it's a word that, as narrators or creators, and um, like I think there are on YouTube there are creators that share experiences or interview people, and then there are research creators that look into things like you with the migration, me with the attacks. I think that sets us apart. But with a person that's sharing an experience, the word vetting, uh, that's a hard thing to really do. Um, it's more or less an inner, because we weren't with that person. It's got to be how you feel about the experience. Like you said with the guy from Tennessee, the emotions that were given off by him, by the daughter, and that really is hard to um, do like a 100% vet, because like I had did a video today where there was a video put out in a picture, and it was said that it was killed in like Elkins, West Virginia, and I was like, no, it was like from South Africa. And it's just like the second time that a weird photo was taken and disinformation was put out. And I hate disinformation because I take this so seriously, like you do. Um, but it bothers me for some reason. You just don't care. You're like, you know what? I don't want to focus on anything. I just, for some reason, it just like kind of pinches me a little bit. But you know, they were like, well, you have someone on here that's saying they had an angelic creature fight a dog man, but yet you want to call this out because they're saying it was from Elkins, West Virginia, but really it was from South Africa. But there's a difference. I can vet that photo. I can, because there's information with that. There's an actual news article. But then when it comes to a person, it's so hard to vet a story. It really
Oh
is.
no,
And I
I'm
think
with you.
you you gave me some of the most amazing advice when I started interviewing people. And when me and you started talking, you said just go with how you feel about this. Remember, there are always people that are going to lie for no reason.
Hmm.
But if you have a platform, you really can't discriminate on who you have on, because then you're kind of you're kind of just only there for um the good stories or whatever. And it really just struck home with me, because I now I have that feeling that you talk about, that that it feels so real. But then there are some times that you're just like, what? But I feel that because I have the platform and I wasn't there, that I give everyone the opportunity to share. You know, um, and it's hard to do because the whole vetting, and people don't understand the vetting process. They can't say, you know, well, you need to vet your guests better. How am I supposed to vet them? Am I supposed to go in a time machine and go on that exact day and say, hey, you're going to tell me your story in 4 years from now, but I'm here and I want to see this. It's so ridiculous. But
I tell you one of the greatest mistakes I made, and I remember telling John Bell this. Um, when we started Dogman Cams, we started doing the podcast. John Bell, regardless of what he says to anybody, when I brought him in to actually do the speaking part and start talking to people because I couldn't maintain the Dark Waters channel and the other YouTube channel as far
Right.
as like a platform of talking. It was supposed to be a platform that was shared between me, him, D-Dawes. You were supposed to come on. Lime was supposed to
Yep.
come on. All these people supposed to come on and share that platform and talk to witnesses. But I remember when he got his first interview and he was like, man, I don't know if this guy's 100% above board. And I said, listen, I said, John, let me tell you the greatest mistake I made. I said, I made my vetting criteria so tight that it limits the amount of production that I can have. And I said, so here's what I want you to do. I said, go by the industry standard. I said, don't do what I do, go by the industry standard. I said, and he was like, well, what's that? I said, the industry standard is you allow that person to speak and you let the audience to judge for themselves.
Hmm.
And he was like, well, you think so? I said, I'm telling you, John, allow it, give that person a platform, let them speak, and leave it up to the audience and make it clear it's up to the audience. And when you start talking about Dogman encounters, that's the only way that you're going to feed the fever or feverish nature of content consumption of the Dogman community. Now, I call it the Dogman trap. I said it a long time ago. I named it. You see, and this is what happened to Vic, and it happens to everybody if you're not careful. So the audience wants more, 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 and so you're trapped with taking what comes in. And in order to keep up with that feverish pace, you take what comes in and you produce it and you put it out. As in, you take that interview, record it, put it out. And so then at some point in time, people say, well, the quality's dropped. You're not vetting your guest. This guest is not good. This guest is not this. I don't believe that person. Well, at the end of the day, it's because of that feverish nature where people want to consume, 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 consume. It feeds into that. That's why you'll
Hmm.
notice, bro. There'll be time periods where I'll take 30 days where there's no content. Like it's just dry because I don't believe what that person's telling me and what the last group of people told me. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna put out some other stuff. But the trap is when you're search engine optimized for Dogman and you put out a story about Bigfoot, it gets no views. When you put a story out, um, like I put a story out like a couple of weeks ago, bro. One of the coldest, most beautiful stories I ever, short stories I ever produced, and it got 1,000 views. I was like, that's crazy
Mm. Yeah.
because, but
Yeah.
there was no interest in it. And so what ends up happening is a person, a creator, gets trapped in that,
Hmm.
and so that trap leads to spiraling down of the quality of what people want to hear, but simultaneously, it's the demand that leads to the spiraling down. And
Yeah.
so then
Yeah.
the content, I forgot where I said this. I said this somewhere else, major. It was a big interview. I said, and so therefore, there's roles of responsibility on everybody's part. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, content creator, if you want to put out, if you want to be put out like top notch quality content, you're gonna take an L in revenue. But
Yep.
also the audience, if you want to listen to top notch quality content, when it comes out, you got to support it 100%, or
Yeah.
else we're gonna be on this average playing field. And so it's one of those things. I don't blame anybody for allowing someone to come, talk, tell their story, and keep it moving because it's a no win situation. That's why you see people who come into the Dogman community, they're successful, and then they branch out and they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna start talking about other things other than Dogman because
Like
you
why
get
I
in there,
changed my name.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get stuck, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people want you to take the hit for being stuck, but nobody wants to take responsibility for why you're stuck. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Yep.
the honest to God truth.
That that story that you just said, like where you said it was one of your best, and it only got 1,000 views. That was like when I had Laura Eisenhower on. I mean, this is a woman who her grandfather was President Eisenhower, the man who warned us about the military industrial complex, the man who talked about dumbs. He talked about the alien agenda and this and that, and I had her on, and she's just a vast amount of knowledge in that brain. And I thought that it would just blow up. I was like, this is going to be, one of the greatest interviews I've ever had. And it got like 3,000, 4,000 views. And I was like, what is going on? Like, but then I put a video out where, a dog man gets shot by a person from, Kentucky, and there's 16,000 views. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, that video's good, but like, this was Laura Eisenhower. This woman is, we're talking about something major, and I had I had questioned her about the crawlers. I had said, do you think these crawler creatures could possibly be coming from DUMS? And a question that people, people love hearing crawler stories nowadays, but you know, and I really, it blew my mind, because I was like, there's so much information and so much knowledge that was shared in that one video that
Hmm.
just got overlooked, because in the title it didn't say Dogman ripped apart, tent and killed two people. And it's kind of sad, because there are so many other interesting theories and stories that are mind blowing, other than Dogman. I mean, I love Dogman experiences, but the paranormal is huge. Dumbs are huge. I don't know. I think that dumbs play a role with the Dogman community. These things need a place to. I think that these abandoned bunkers could possibly be used by Dogmen. So I don't know. It's it's tragic. It is.
No, it really is, bro. But that's the side of this that nobody really wants to talk about. Like nobody talks about that element of it.
Hmm.
I call it the dark side of dealing with cryptids in general.
Right.
Nobody talks about the dark side of it from a content creator standpoint, because content creators won't talk about it. But the only way to change it is to tell people, hey, bro, you know, you got to reward everything across the board. If you reward everything across the board, now you even it off to where that person has leeway to actually get you more quality Dogman content. So if that person wants to take a break from Dogman or take a break from Cryptis, and you still show that same energy. Now they say, okay, well, I put out something about, I don't know, giants, right?
Hmm.
And it got a good number of views. It got good attention. Let me stay on giants for a week, and while I go out and find some more quality, really good Dogman stuff, and so it balances itself off. If there's no balance, then bro, we
It's
get what
just
we
going to
got,
get stale and dry.
and that's kind of what the phase we're getting ready to go into now with the Dogman community and the Dogman content. We're going into um, we're going into a lull, in my opinion, where you have creepypasta narrators, because I was around before creepypasta even thought about talking
Hmm.
about Dogman. Like creepypasta people didn't pick up on Dogman until I did Siege of Lock and Ranch. Then they all ran off with Dogman, right? Which is cool. It doesn't matter. So now there's this struggle
And then you got your
between
subs thinking that a creepypasta is real. And you're like, oh
exactly.
my God. And
Or,
that's just, I mean, Reddit and creepypasta has ruined, in my eyes, a lot of Dogman information. You know, um, it's sad.
well, I think when you look
But
at Reddit, bro, Reddit has some people who have good points on it, and good
yeah.
concepts and ideas. Reddit is a place where they like to attack people. They be wilding out on Reddit. They be going crazy on Reddit. But
Hmm.
nonetheless, they have some good concepts and ideas on the topic, and there's some people who have their encounters. But it's another part of the Dogman community. It's like um, it's kind of like getting where you fit in, right? Well, I couldn't. There are certain people who couldn't get in on the wave of Facebook groups that
Hmm.
pertain to Dogman and cryptids. And so they said, okay, well, and they were people in those Facebook groups. They came to try to come to YouTube. Well, it wasn't successful at YouTube. They said, okay, well, I'm gonna go over here to Reddit, and I'm gonna set up on Reddit, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes into the factions and the divides that are in the community. I think
Yeah.
everybody has each thing has its value. If it's used, each tool has its value if it's used the right way. But there has to be some kind of standard that people put in place, and that therein lies
Exactly.
the problem to me. Like if there's no standard, bro, then You got all kinds of problems, and I think
Hmm.
that's what we see going on right now is the problems that come from there not being a standardization. And I don't think there'll ever be like standard protocol for, okay, is this real or this is not real. Remember I put out Dogman 101 and I shared all that information about like
Hmm.
my research.
Yep.
That was a part of the reason why I shared my research. Is I said, okay, this is the criteria in which I judge things by, um, and this is what I use. I'm not telling anybody else they got to use it. I'm just saying this is what I judge things by. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and this is my criteria. So it's up to you to
Almost
decide.
like a playbook for the subscriber to go by,
Yeah, I
and
gave my whole
judge.
playbook.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And if you
Yep.
go back and you look at all my old content, you will see that it falls within that framework of the data that I've collected. And I
Yeah.
did that partially to help the community and partially to put an end to anybody saying, well, oh, this guy's stuff is not real. No, here's the framework that I have for what I do,
Right.
and how I make it happen. Now, if you don't believe that, all right, well, you don't believe it. But that's my framework that I use. Um,
Yeah. Um do you think a experience like Lockett Ranch will ever, like a historic experience like that, will ever come to fruition again? Do you think that there's a story like that hidden in the catacombs of some family's closet? It's their that family's skeleton in the closet. Do you think there is something out there like that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more of them out there like that. Like when there's some guys out of North Carolina that have been trying to hook me up with some families. There's one family I'm working with now, but there's a black family out of North Carolina got huge acreage of land that I've been trying my best to get with to get their stories. They got multi generational stories of not only Dogman but Bigfoot as well. And I've been trying my best to get access to that content, but it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to, bro. It hasn't gone the way I wanted it to at all.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
the
It's
challenge of getting people to actually trust you. You know what I'm saying? And
hmm
that's a
yeah,
process.
exactly.
It takes a little time to get people to trust you and relay and share their stories. It's just it's just the nature of it, bro.
Yeah. People are hesitant. I mean, they don't know how you got a family that's got uh, generations of, like with Luke again. So that's a one family that I've had that have had generations of stories. And, he and I talked for days before he came on the show and shared, because that we had to build that trust level. He wanted to make sure I wasn't going to exploit or mock, ridicule.
Right.
And unfortunately, you've got to really lay that trust blanket down so they're willing to accept it and feel good about you. And that's why when I've got people that are like, uh, I've had one woman that really, she got treated like crap a long time ago in the community. And I was like, listen, I'm like, my comment section has got some people in there that are kind of rude, but the majority of them will really you know come to your rescue if anyone. And it was an amazing experience. And it's really sad because you need that too. Your audience has got to be there with you to back that person on their experience. And I got to credit my subs, which the majority of my subs are your subs too, um, that really are understanding and not hateful in the comment section. Um, because if someone's willing to share their experience, that's a hard thing to do, for some people, because they've held on to it for so long and it's caused PTSD and some, crazy stuff in their life. It's sad. I've got one lady that she told me her experience, uh, I want her to come on because when I heard it, it blew me away. But she's so afraid to come on and share it because she doesn't want to get ridiculed. And
Right.
I'm like, listen, no one's going to ridicule. And this experience is like it's right there with the Tennessee experience that you just said about sure. There's something to the experience that is like, wait a second, what? She had been hiking 2 or 3 years prior to whatever. She had come across a what she thought was a coyote,
Mm-hmm.
and it had its foot, or a wolf or whatever. It had its foot trapped in this trap. She's like, I gotta let it out. I gotta figure a way of getting this thing out, but it's gonna bite me. She eventually summons the courage and releases this thing from she noticed it was bigger than normal, but she just, she's an animal lover, so she did. And a couple years later, this is in like South Dakota in the Black Hills. A couple years later, she's hiking, and this very strange creature, she's got her kid with her, like on one of those backpack things where you put your baby, and she's just going on a hike. And she sees this kind of demonic looking thing in this kind of crotch of the rocks, and all of a sudden there's this Dogman thing that comes to put her aid and pushes her kind of out of the way, and she looks down, and she's looking at this thing, and she says, I looked down at its leg, and there was this scar or thing, different color of its hair. And I don't know if it was this, but it kind of made sense to me that that could have been that thing that I saved years ago, that it came to my aid, and there was like two or three other dogmen there, but this thing that was going to attack her was not a dogman. It looked like a dogman, but it was more demonic looking, she said. It didn't have, um, and I was just like, dude, that's, when I heard it, I'm sitting there, I'm like at the edge of my seat, the way she was telling it. Because there was, a heck of a lot more detail because she lived it, and I'm like, oh my God, you gotta come on my show and share this. And she's like, I don't want to. She's like, I'm scared to. No, she's like, I want to, but I'm scared to because I don't want the ridicule.
Right.
And I'm like, I understand, I do, but I've got, and then I proceeded to name, different women that are in my subscriber comment section, and then there are great men, and there are people that will come to your aid if anyone's going to be a jerk about it. Um, it's it's sad that this community can't be so accepting of real experiences that just blow. I mean, because it blew my mind, and I know that if someone heard it the way she told it to me, I mean, if I'm on the edge of my seat, they would be too. So, I mean, I was
Bro.
on the edge of my seat when you were talking about the Tennessee one. So,
Bro, and that's the balancing act that it when it comes to like content creation, it really is a balancing act. To get the right content that's going to be accepted by the masses and then presented in a manner in which um, it's kind of like a finicky. Some people are finicky. Present the right thing, the right place, the right time.
mm-hmm.
Um, and nobody talks about that because it's like, oh, you should be able to get me the story today. No, bro, that's not how it works. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not how it works. I wish it did work that way. I wish I could give you a story, a dog. I could give you a dog man story every day. I can't. Um, I just I can't based on my what I do, um, because I want that's how I personally was able to get the results of being on Coast to Coast AM, um, 200 well 323 interviews at this point in time, because I just wanted the best of the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's a balancing act, and that's what we have to do. Man, how long we been going, man? We've been going for what? Damn near two
Well,
hours.
turned into my interview on you.
Let me ask you this: How do you what do you see this field being in like 3 4 years as far as it pertains to Dogman?
I'd like to. I'd like to, as community or as in research or what? What do you mean? Like just.
Like just the field itself, the Dogman field. Do you think we're gonna ever get some evidence that people will be satisfied with?
I think we're getting closer. Um, I think I think these attacks that are going on, these just real strange attacks, and not all attack. Like not all these attacks are Dogman, and there are people out there now that because they I don't know if they saw. I'm not taking credit for this, but you know, um, they'll look at any attack and be like, it's a real bear attack, but they'll turn it into a dogman attack, or you know what I mean, because it's an that. And I've had a couple of people be like that. Idaho or whatever, the college killing was a dog man that went
Oh
into the house. And I'm
wow.
like, there was a human being involved in that. Yeah, and um, I really think that if with these sloppy attacks and how they're handled by the media and the government, like the County, Tennessee, Tony Aaron's, Amber Miller. I think right there, those two attacks were serious evidence that if you weren't a believer, that you might want to start thinking about it. Because when I was on Sean Atwood's channel, um, I talked about that case, and he and I talked about it, and he was, you know, really invested in hearing about it. I'm like, this happened, and he's like, yeah, that how are they denying something like this? Like, it's not definite. It's definitely not a dog. Like, two people were killed in the same exact location, torn apart. I think that we may get information that puts us a little closer, but I don't think we'll get to that spot for a very long time. I mean, it took what, 60, 70 years for the government to at least admit about UAPs or UFOs.
Right.
They still won't say the word aliens. Um, I think that quite possibly they may say unidentified creature. They're starting to say that in the newspapers now when it come to the Colorado cattle attack in Meeker. Unidentified creature, non-human creature. When it came to the Ohio horse attack, I think that's what we'll get for a long time is things like that. But I think the experiences and sightings will come out more and more the more we grow our population and we push um, the forest to its limits. I don't really think that we're going to have the answers that we want in 5 years, 10 years. I think we're a long way off.
Yeah, that's I think photographic and video evidence of them. I think we're gonna get Blues footage out of Florida was some
Blues,
phenomenal
yeah,
footage.
yeah,
I think we're gonna get
yeah.
something similar to that. It seems like we get one really good piece of footage per year. Um,
Well, Kirk's got that footage, that video that I put on my channel. I mean,
Kirk's got a lot of good stuff, bro. Kirk's
so
I've heard about Kirk's
he's
private stash, and
yeah. He sent me that video, and I've sat on that video for 3 years, and I put it up. I was like, I'm putting it up, and I didn't say who it was, and it was a subscriber. I said subscriber, and he reached out to one of his friends who I knows I'm friends with him, and I said, dude, just get him to come on my show. I'm like, the whole community's changed. I'm like, I will go to bat for him. I don't care if someone talks shit about him. I will stick up for him. I don't care. I don't. The guy has so much valuable information that I think if his private collection was aired, that the lid would be at least blown off a little bit more, not all the way, but pushed aside a little bit. You know, when you take a manhole cover off, you kind of move it an inch by an inch.
Right.
People get that, but that one video that he took, and it's you can see it blink, you can see it breathe. It's truly amazing. Blues footage. You cannot deny that footage. People still try to deny it, and it's like that's from a live Facebook feed.
Yeah,
How
that
do you
was
deny
crazy.
that? You know, that photo that he took is just incredible. My daughter's boyfriend took. Did I send you the photo? He took a photo of this thing staring at them out there the window. He would look out the window, and he
What?
lives by this cemetery. Yeah, I put it on my channel. My daughter, there's a cemetery in my town, and it's like acres of land. I brought my camera there before, and I went through it at night. I went through it in the day. There's a freaking pond. There's streams. There's acres of woods. It just goes on. It's huge, and my daughter, 17, with her friends, they're being kids. They go down and partake in some medicinal medicine, and I'm not saying that I'm agreeing with it, but yeah, they're kids. I did it too.
Right.
Um, and she was honest with me at least, so I got to credit her for being honest. But she said there was this thing down there, Dad, that we saw, and I'm like, what? And then her boyfriend, he lives like 200 yards from the place, from the cemetery, across the street, and they've been having like weird sounds. Um, there was a howl one night, and he had his window open. It was like summertime or springtime, and he heard the neighbor go, "What the hell was that?" And one night he looks out his window and he sees this dog man, and like he was playing Call of Duty, and he went to get like a soda or something, and he took his camera and his phone and took a picture of it, and you can see it looking at him through this fence, like staring at him. And I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, I'll send it to you. I'll text it to you.
That's
Actually, right now
crazy.
while we're here. Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "This is unbelievable," and it just validated that, like, because I knew that there's some crazy stuff that go on in the cemetery. It is haunted, but I didn't. I mean, I didn't think that there would possibly be a dogman in that location, and then sure enough, there it was, and I was like, "This is insane." Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to get it so you can. I can. Is that it? Where the hell is it? And I just sent it to you. Let's see. Yeah. So I mean, and the neighbors are hearing the howling too, which is even even more strange. It just really
Holy
doesn't make
crap.
any. It just doesn't make any sense. That
Yeah, that's definitely dog man.
like you can see its
You
nose.
can see his nose, you can see his eyes, you can see his ears.
I was like,
Yeah.
"What is that?" That was in your backyard, and he's like, "No, that was in the front yard, going toward the cemetery." And I'm like, "Dude, don't go outside at night."
Yeah, dude, you need to sit down and chill out. That's no bueno right there, bro.
Here's another one. Here's another one. This is the one that he took, and I was like, I gotta. You can clearly see in that circle, if you blow it up with your hands, you can see two eyes, a nose, its ears, and there's the fence that it's looking through.
Yep, there it is.
And then Blue's picture, the one that he took. I mean, you can't deny these photos, and they're not the greatest photos, but there's some sort of magnetic. I think a magnetic disturbance is why we're not getting. I was talking to a guy the other day who he was a math teacher, and he lives out by Elkhorn,
Hmm.
and he showed me these prints, and I, they come out of the field as one single track, and then they separate and just go, and there's no human track, so it couldn't be physically made. He was with Linda Godfrey. He had been on TV. His name's Lee, and he had Linda at his house in his fields, and they saw this mist come out of nowhere, and this dogman came out, and we were talking about interdimensional dogmen,
Right.
and I think that's one of the bigger reasons why we can't get a photo or a great video. Like with Blue's video, you can clearly see that that's a dog man, but the um, detail is off because there's some sort of disturbance going on. He was lucky enough to catch that thing running, and if you slow it down, you can make out some of the detail, but you know what I mean. Like there should have been more detail to it because he wasn't that far out. So there's obviously some sort of something going on.
I
That
think it's a combination of that, and again, people underestimate the speed. So when we had Dogman cams, Wendy Wilson, and I'm not sure, I don't think we ever shared this one publicly. Wendy Wilson calls me one night with a video recording from the cams, and she says something just ran across the screen. The screen. She was like, "People don't understand how fast these things are." She was like, "I slowed this down so you can see it, bro. You see this about 4.5, 5 foot tall thing literally run across the screen. You see the legs moving and the arms moving, and the space is probably about 30 yards, 40 yards, but it clears that 40 yards in what seems like 2.2 seconds. But you had to slow it down and go bit by bit, frame by frame to see it move. And I was like, what the hell is that? And she was like, that's a Sasquatch. She was like, that's how fast they are. I said, that's cartoon fast. And she was like, yes, it's cartoon character fast. I was like, bro, this is insane. There's no way on earth that you outrun one of those things at that speed at which it was moving. Um, and then she brought another piece of evidence on those same cameras where one jumped from a tree and jumped down and then ran off. And I was freaked out by it, bro. I mean, I was absolutely freaked out by it. But you would have to know what you're looking for to see it. And so I think
right.
part of it is maybe some electromagnetic stuff, but also, excuse me, I think they just may be faster than what people can fathom and understand. The human mind can understand.
I mean, they obviously have to be if they're keeping up with cars, like people are, claiming. I've never had one chase me, thank the Lord, but people are like, I'm going 30 and climbing, and it's staying up with my car. I mean, people don't if it's in your backyard or in a field and it's going to run 50 miles an hour. That's fast for a camera to catch,
Hmm.
especially if it's um, you know, not a car, but slenderly, more slender than a car, and just ultra there 1 minute, gone the next. How are you gonna? You can't keep your camera to keep up with a 55-mile-an-hour creature, even a 40-mile-an-hour creature. It's too hard to do. Especially we're amateurs. We're not experts. Expert photographers. So we need some experts out there with cameras to do it, or those people that say you took this photo with a potato. Well, go show us how to do it, please. You know, that's what I say now.
Bro, that's my number one saying. That's why I started giving locations because people are like, well, you need to do this. I tell you what, go to this location. I guarantee you, and I'm gonna tell you, bro. Some of them locations I gave is not only Dogman there, it's
Mhm.
Bigfoot there, and there's some other freaky weird stuff. I'm like, go there, go ahead, here you go. And
Yep.
it's amazing. I'll get messages from people. Well, you told me they say that you put out locations for these things. I want a location. I'll just reply, there are about 20 locations publicly out there for you. You can go to any one of them, but I go look for it. And they never go look for it. as far as, well, some people actually do, but most people never go look for the previous post. It's like, well, no, you just give me one. No, if you're that serious about it, um, go ahead and find it. I put it out there.
Do the research that you had to do.
Yeah.
Like, do 1/10 of the research that you had to do. It's not that hard to find a comment or a community post. Just scroll through the community post. But yet here we are spending 10, 12 hours looking, investigating, researching things. Like looking at maps or whatever. Like with your migration thing. I know how much time you spent with that.
Bro, that was
the Meeker, Colorado thing. I mean, I spent one whole day just staring at a map, talking to this guy named Carl on the phone, as he's telling me locations. Look over here, go here, now go about a couple of miles this way, and and that's some serious. But please go 2 community posts down, and that's hard.
That's how it goes. All right, Jeff, we're going to wrap it up, brother, because I need to make sure that everybody has something in here to eat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the one and only Dark Waters, and I'm here with my homie, Jeff Nadolny, and you guys have a phenomenal evening.